Assalamu alaikum. You are studying e-commerce and I am your instructor Saadat Nisar. In the previous lecture we had started our main topic JavaScripting, and if you recall we had studied some basic concepts regarding JavaScript. JavaScripting is basically used on the client side. So although it can be used on the server side, but its basic function is on the client side. That means that whatever data we use on certain web pages, we input some data in the web forms for that matter. That information, that data is not supplied to the server side. Rather, it is utilized by the client side to produce some dynamic, some interactive web pages. In other words, we can say that information provided by the user on web pages or his actions, all that is utilized by the client side to provide certain desired dynamic web pages. Has got the knowledge of certain useful predefined objects. There are certain predefined objects, certain keywords which are already within the knowledge. Whenever we use these objects, their functions, their properties, the browser knows what to do about it. So the information provided by the user is therefore utilized by these objects to provide our desired effects, desired results. You recall the object basically is a concept used in programming which consists of certain properties and certain functions or methods. In other words, an object in programming is a combination of certain properties and certain methods or functions. There are quite a few predefined objects, like there is window object, document object, date object, string object, etc. And each such object has got its unique properties and its unique methods or functions. We can have a detailed discussion on that in the subsequent lecture. When I say that with the help of JavaScript we can create certain dynamic web pages, I mean to say that, for instance, if there is a web form on which there are two text boxes and the user is asked to type certain numbers in those two text boxes, and then there is some button, say an add button. When the user clicks on that add button, these two numbers he inputs in the two text boxes, they are automatically supplied to some JavaScript code which we embed in the code of that web page, and then automatically these two numbers, they are processed, some mathematical operation takes place, and our desired result in the form of addition of these two numbers, it is then displayed for us. We can say that we have, in other words, generated a dynamic web page. We have got the addition of the two numbers we had input, being the users in the two text boxes. Another example of having dynamic web pages is that, say, there is an image on a website, and when we bring our mouse pointer on that image gets transformed, it gets changed into some other image. So you have already seen an example in this regard. If you recall, we had two images, and when I brought my pointer on the first image, it changed into some other image. So we can have a look at that example once again. You can see in the screen before you, there are two screenshots. On the left side, you see there is an image, and on that, the text appears, the word appears, contents. And on the right side, you see there is a different image having the word search contained on it. So, if you remember the code behind this result, I showed you this code in our previous lecture. When I would take my mouse pointer on the image contents, my initial image, because of certain JavaScript statements which I had applied, which I had used in the coding, this image contents.gif would transform into another image search.gif. And therefore, I can say that I have been able to create a dynamic web page in this way. I changed the image because of my action. Here, I would also repeat the concept of event handlers. You have already studied that. Events basically describe those actions that occur, that take place when a user interacts with a web page. Therefore, the keywords which are used to bring about these actions, these events, they are called event handlers, and we have already noticed some of the more prominent event handlers like on click, on submit, on change, on select, on mouse over, on mouse out, etc. And in the example I have just shown you, we had used the two event handlers on mouse over and on mouse out. You have already seen the code about that. Then I want to talk about the two very important functions or methods, predefined functions or methods which are used in JavaScript. One is alert function or alert method, and the other is write function or write method. Both relate to two different objects. Alert function or method relates to the window object, which again is a browser object, which is a predefined object, and using this alert function we can generate certain pop-up boxes, alert boxes, warning boxes in which we can display certain strings, certain messages. We can confront the user with the help of these pop-up messages using the alert function. In case of write function, which relates to another different object, that is document object, with the help of the write function we can write certain information, we can print certain information on our web pages, and with the help of certain examples we'll be able to develop an understanding about it. First of all, I would like to show you an example pertaining to the alert method or alert function. In the slide you can see there is the HTML tag, then there is the head tag, and then a title tag, and I have given the title JavaScript examples, title closed. Then I use the script tag, and I use the attribute language equal JavaScript, then type equal text oblique JavaScript. Remember that wherever you are using script tag, you should give the language attribute keeping its value JavaScript. And after that, I use the comment tag in HTML. You can see the left angular bracket, then exclamation mark, then two hyphens, and then you can see the JavaScript function, the alert function of window object. I write it with the keyword alert, then there would be small brackets, and within the double quotation mark, I have typed a sentence which reads, "Thank you for visiting my website," and double quotation mark closed, small bracket closed. Now this is the information, this is the sentence that would in fact appear on an alert box as a result of this code. Then you can see After the alert function, there are 2 slashes, and then there are 2 hyphens, and then the right angular bracket. You can notice that the 2 slashes here, they are used to comment certain information in JavaScript. This is in fact the syntax to provide comments in JavaScript. So wherever I use a JavaScript function, JavaScript statement in an HTML tag, and I want to comment out that function, that statement of JavaScript, then I should provide these 2 slashes before the end of the comment tag in HTML. Now, why do we provide certain information in comments? The reason is that what information we do not want to be used for processing purposes, we want that information to be ignored while processing of the code, we then provide such information as a comment. And there is a specific syntax in different tools to provide these comments. In this particular case, we use this comment tag, this comment syntax, because in case there are certain old browsers which do not support script tag, then all such browsers would tend to take this information, alert, thank you for visiting my website, as a piece of text. So they would try to print this information, taking it as a piece of text. So in order to avoid that, stop that, so that the old browsers, they do not print this information as a text, we enclose this information within the comment tag. On the other hand, the modern browsers which support the script tag, which support JavaScripting, they would see the script tag, and thereby they would in fact ignore the comment tag. They would ignore the comment syntax, and thereby they would in fact implement this JavaScript function alert, thank you for visiting my website, and accordingly they would generate the pop-up box displaying this string in that pop-up box. Okay, then after the end comment tag, I close the script tag, then close the head tag. In the body tag, as such, I'm not writing anything. I close the body tag, close the HTML tag, and you can see the result before you. You can see that there is a pop-up box, an alert box, in which that string appears, which I had enclosed as a part of the alert function within the double quotation marks, within the small bracket. So in this fashion, I can therefore create pop-up boxes, alert boxes, etc. I had also talked about the write function or write method of a different object, document object, which is again predefined. This is known to the browser. It is a browser object. And whenever I want some information to be typed or printed actually on my web page, I use this object, document object, and I use its function write. I type this keyword write in order to invoke this write function of the document object. So you can see in the slide before you, I write a code where I'm using this document.write, HTML tag, then head tag, again a title example writing on the page, head closed, then I start the body tag, and then I use the script tag because I want to apply a JavaScript function. Therefore, I have to use a script tag, and I keep language equal JavaScript, type text oblique JavaScript. Then within the comment tag, I give my document.write function, document.write. Now the syntax says that after writing the word write, I use small brackets, and within these small brackets in the form of a string, I type some information, hello, thank you for visiting my website. You should remember this thing, that whatever information I want, whatever text I want to be displayed, to be written on my web page, I must enclose that within the double quotation mark. As you can see in this case, these words, hello, thank you for visiting my website, they are enclosed in the double quotation mark. I have to do that. I have to enclose them within the double quotation mark if I want these words to appear, to be written on my web page. Then I close the comment tag, then I close the script tag, body tag, HTML tag. That sentence which I had enclosed in document.write within the small brackets, that is written before you. Hello, exclamation mark, thank you for visiting my website. So the code you just saw is processed in terms of this one line. Here I should point out to you that in order to invoke or apply a JavaScript function or a JavaScript property, the syntax says that I should write the object name first, then there should be a dot, and then I can write the property name or the method or function name which relates to that object. For example, in case of document.write, when I want a string to be printed on my web page, what I do is I first write the word document, then there is a dot, then the document objects function write, and then within the small brackets I type a string. However, there is an exception in case of alert function or alert method. You know that alert is a function of window object, a predefined browser object. In case of alert function, I do not write window.alert. It is enough that if I just type the word alert and within the small brackets, then I provide the string, and then that information which appears as a part of the string, that would be shown in the pop-up box. Next, it is useful for us to have some overview of the concept of functions and operators in JavaScript. The functions, as you have already seen, there are certain predefined functions in JavaScript for predefined objects like write function, alert function, get day, get month, etc. These are all different predefined functions of some predefined objects in JavaScript. But we can also define, or we can also create our own functions in JavaScript. So wherever we want to define some unique functions, we want to use those functions in our document, in our code, then we can have this flexibility that we can define those functions ourselves, as we can define the variables on our own. Similarly, the functions can also be defined. So the syntax says that I first of all write the keyword function, then I give an appropriate name of that function, and then there appears a small bracket in front of that function name. And whatever code, whatever information I want to enclose, I want to use in case of that function, I provide that within the curly brackets. So just to show you how a function can be defined, you can have a look at the slide before you. You see, I have written the word function, the keyword function, then I name this function as my function, and then the small brackets, these brackets are used to provide some information that is called arguments or parameters in programming. And then the curly bracket starts, and there is a closing of that curly bracket, and within the starting and closing curly bracket I can enclose some code, some formulas, some JavaScript statements or functions. And within the starting curly bracket and closing curly bracket, I can enclose some JavaScript statements, some variables, etc. Then you should also have the understanding of operators. Operators are those characters, those special characters which we can use in order to perform certain useful operations, certain useful actions. So mainly in JavaScript there are 3 different types of operators, and I'll show you with the help of the slide what these operators are. They are, number 1, the mathematical operators, then there are logical operators, and then the comparison operators. So in the slide you can see, first of all, the mathematical operators. They are listed before you. So whenever I use a plus sign, that would act as an operator, a mathematical operator for addition purposes. So using this plus sign, I can add 2 numbers, 2 values. Then minus sign, that is for subtraction of 2 values. Asterisk sign is used for multiplying 2 numbers, 2 values. Then there is a slash, that is used for division purposes. Again, then the percentage sign, the modulus, we use this operator in order to calculate any remainder after the division takes place. Then you can see plus plus, we use this operator, we also call it increment operator, plus plus operator. Either we can use it before a variable or after a variable. Wherever we use that adds 1 value to the previous value. Similarly, there is the decrement operator. We indicate it with the help of 2 minus signs. So wherever we use this decrement operator, that in fact would reduce 1 value from the current value. Again, that can also be used before or after a variable name. Then comes the logical operators. Logical operators, first of all, you can see if I write ampersand sign twice, that stands for the word and. So that is for logical and. Wherever I want to apply this concept and within my coding, I would use this ampersand sign twice. Thereafter, you can see there are 2 straight lines. They are for logical or. Wherever I want to introduce the concept of or, there I would use these 2 parallel lines to indicate the logical or operator. Next is exclamation mark. This is logical not. So wherever I want to introduce the concept not, I can do so with the help of this logical not operator. You can see the example. If there is an if statement and I want to type a condition, x is less than y and x is also less than z, then in that case some statement must be processed, some statement must be executed as I might have given in the curly brackets. In this case, I'm using AND operator in the condition of my if statement. Then in the next example, I can use the NOT operator. So you can see if not false, then some statement can be executed. So wherever I am working with the Boolean data types, Boolean variables whose value is either true or false, I can use this if statement, and in the if statement I can use the condition not false. If the condition satisfies, it is not false, then some statement can be then executed. We can also have comparison operators. So if we repeat the equals sign, that in fact is the example of a comparison operator. So where there are 2 equal signs, that refers to the equal operator. Then not equal, if we want to give a concept not equal, then we write the exclamation mark, and after the exclamation mark there is the equal sign. That would mean not equal. To indicate less than, we use the left angular bracket. Then to indicate less than equal, we write the left angular bracket, and after that we put the equal sign, that would less than equal. Then for greater than, we use the right angular bracket, and for greater than equal, we use right angular bracket which is followed by the equal sign. So these are some of the comparison operators that we can use in JavaScript file coding. Next, I want to show you some practical examples. So in this way, you will be able to develop an understanding how JavaScript code can be written, how JavaScript works. So first of all, I would like to tell you how we can create a calculator in JavaScripting. So if there is a web form where there are two text boxes, there are add, subtract, multiply button, etc., and the user is asked to type certain numbers, certain values in the two text boxes. By clicking the add button, the two numbers, they can then be added up and the result can be displayed. The result can be displayed either in a pop-up box using the alert function. It can also be written on a web page using the document.write. We can also have this result in for example, another text box. So all these three options, they are available for us to have our result displayed. So let's have a look at the code which can be used to create a calculator. In this particular example, in fact, I am just using the addition and the subtraction for calculation purposes. And you can see I start with the HTML tag, then there is the script tag. Using language attribute, I keep value JavaScript. Then within the comment tag, I write a function, I define a function add it. I keep this function's name add it. Then within the curly brackets, I have enclosed three statements. The first statement is the definition of a variable num1, the second num2. Then there is an alert function and it has got some formula written it. I'll let you know very shortly what is that. I'll explain that later to you. Then there is another function, I name it minus. Function minus, again within the curly bracket, this function also has three statements. First is the definition of a variable num1, then second is the definition of the variable num2, and again there is an alert function. And then I close the comment tag, I close the script tag, then I come to the body tag and I write add and subtract calculator. And within the body tag, now you should notice that I have used the form tag. Using the name attribute in this form tag, I keep its value called form. Then a paragraph tag, and then I write the text first number colon. So this information, first number colon, that would appear as a piece of text on our web form as it is. Then in order to create my text box, I use the input tag. You are familiar with that. Input type text, name 1, max length 3. It means that I am asking the browser to create a text box whose name would be 1 and where a user can type maximum 3 characters. Then to create my second text box, I use another input tag. So before that, I write the words second number colon. That information would appear as such. Then within the input tag, type text name 2, max length again 3. So that would in fact create for me the second text box whose name is 2. Then I create three buttons. First input type button, name add. I have kept the name of this button add, and I want to label the value add them on this button. So the words add them, they would be labeled on this button of add type. Then you can notice that I have used an event handler, that is on click. So I use this event handler on click, and I keep its value add it. Within the double quotation mark, I write that function's name. This function here is add it, to which I want these values to be passed on. Then similarly, I create another button, input type button. I keep its name minus, value subtract them. So on this button, the words, the label subtract them would appear, and I again use an event handler on click, and here I keep the value of on click as minus. Remember, that is the name of the function minus which I have defined in the code above. Then the third input tag here for creating a button, input type reset, value reset, that would in fact create a reset button for me, using which I can clear the values in the text boxes. Then I close the form tag, body tag, HTML tag. Now, what would happen now? So there would be two text boxes created. The first text box, its name would be 1. The second text box, its name would be 2. These text boxes would appear before the user, and there would be three buttons: add button, subtract button, and the reset button. The user would type certain values in these two text boxes. Say the user types 3 in the first text box, and the user types 5 in the second text box. And when the user would click the button add, what would happen is that because of the event handler on click, the control would shift to the function add it, which I had defined above within the code. So when the control would be shifted to the function add it, then the function add it would be processed. The three statements of the function add it would be executed, and as a result, eventually in an alert box, the result, the addition of the two numbers 3 and 5 would be displayed. So let's have a look again at the code. Now focus on the add it function at the top. Function add it, it has got three statements within the curly brackets. First statement defines num1. So here I start with the keyword where, because I want to define a variable. I keep the name of this variable num1, and then after the equal sign, I write in a particular syntax some words: document dot call form dot one dot value semicolon. That in fact means, that tells the browser that whatever value the user has typed in this form called call form in its text box called 1, that value should be assigned, should be given as a value to the variable num1. So the num1 variable would automatically carry that value which the user would type in the text box called 1. Similarly, in the subsequent line, you see where num2 equal document dot call form dot 2 dot value. Again, that would mean that whatever value the user has typed in the text box called 2, that value should be assigned as a value of the variable defined as, named as num2. So num2 would carry that value which the user types in the text box 2. You have to follow this particular syntax to assign values to the variables num1 and num2. Then the third statement, it's basically an alert function that I have used of window object. Alert, I write this keyword, and then within these parentheses, within these small brackets, I write parse float num1. Within these small brackets, I write num1. Then I use the plus sign, the operator, the addition operator, and then parse float num2. And then I close the bracket of num2, and I close the bracket of alert function, and I close it with the semicolon. Here the question arises, what does this parse float mean here? Parse float, in fact, is method or function of global object. Whatever information the user types in text boxes, remember that that information is taken by the browser as a piece of text. It is a string of characters. Although you type it as a number, but that is always taken as a piece of text. In order to convert this text-based information, it is necessary that first of all, this information is converted into number format. So, for that particular purpose, we use this particular function, parse float, which converts the value put in by the user in the text boxes into decimal fractions. And after all that text-based information is converted into decimal fractions, numbers, then that information can be then added up and its result can be therefore generated. We can also use another function, that is parse int instead of parse float. So wherever we want the addition to take place between the whole numbers, not between the decimal fractions, we can use the function, the method parse int instead of parse float. In this case, the values of the two variables num1 and num2, they would be added up, and the result would be displayed in a pop-up box, in an alert box, because of the alert function we have used. Similarly, in case the user, after typing two numbers in the two text boxes, if the user clicks on the button subtract, then in that case, on click, the control would be shifted to the function minus, which I have defined at the top of the code. So the function minus therefore would be got executed, and the three statements contained therein, they would be processed, and the result would accordingly be generated. So you can see in the code, again, function minus where num1 equal document dot colform dot one dot value, then where num2 equals document dot colform dot two dot value. These statements, they are the same as they were used in the added function above. There is no change in that. It simply means, I repeat, that the value in the text box 1, that should be assigned as value of variable num1, and the value entered in the text box named 2, that value should be allocated to the variable num2. And the only change you can notice is in the alert function. So in this function minus, in case of alert function parse float num1 minus parse float num2. You see that I have just changed the mathematical operator. Here I have used minus sign instead of plus sign. So what would happen in fact is the value of the variable num2, it would be subtracted from the value of the variable num1, and the result of this subtraction would be displayed in an alert box, in a pop-up box, because of the alert function or alert method. So I want to show you the result behind this code. You can see in the slide, you see that there is a form. There are two text boxes, first number, second number, where the user would input the value, and then there are three buttons: add them, subtract them, reset. In this particular case, this is a screenshot. I have typed the value 3 for the text box first number, and I have typed 9 in the text box for second number, and when I click at the button add them, the result in a pop-up box, in an alert box, is generated for me on that particular page. So you can see in the alert box the addition of these two numbers 3 and 9, which is 12, that is displayed, that is shown to you. In case I want to do the subtraction, then again the same numbers. In the first text box, the number is 3. In the second, there is 9. And this time, I click at the button, subtract them, which would shift the then control to the function minus. The function minus would then be processed, and as a result, the subtraction, which is the result, which is minus 6, that would be shown to you in an alert box. I can also receive this result in a text box. Instead of displaying my result on an alert box, I can have a text box where I want my result to be typed. So for that matter, there would be just a slight change in the code. You can see the web form in the slide before you. Again, there are two text boxes. In the first text box, I type a number 125, and then there is the second number, this is 66, which I type, and then I click the add them button, which would result into the addition of these two numbers, and their result would be displayed in a third text box. You can see the third text box, which is against the word result, and in that text box result, the addition 191 is shown. So let's have a look at the code which has generated this result to us. Okay, let me show you the part of the code that relates to the creation of form first of all. So after the body tag, there is the form tag, name, call form. Then to create the first text box, first number, colon, these are the words I would write, and then input type text, name 1, max length 3. There is no change from the previous example in this regard, so that would create a text box called 1. Then to create the second text box, second number, colon, input type text, name 2, max length 3, that would create the second text box. Then after the paragraph tag, I create a third text box, result, colon, input type text, name result. I give the name result to this third text box, and I use the attribute max length equal 9, which means that a maximum of 9 characters can be typed in this text box. And you can see I have used an attribute disabled. This attribute or the keyword disabled would have the effect such that only the result can be shown in this text box called result. The user would not be able to type any information on his own in this text box because of the attribute disabled. Only the result of some addition or subtraction can be displayed in this text box. Then after the paragraph tag, I create the 3 buttons: input, type, button, name, add, value, add them. And you can see the event handler. Again, there is no change here as compared to the previous example. Again, on click equal add it, which means that when the user should click the add button, then the control should be shifted to the function add it. Then in the subsequent input tag, type, again button, name here is now minus, value, subtract them, and on click minus. That means then when the user clicks on this button, subtract them button, then the control would be shifted to the function, JavaScript function minus, and then that function minus would be processed, executed, and the result would be generated. Then for reset button, input, type, reset, value, reset. You are familiar with that. Then form closed, body closed, HTML closed. This is the form part of our coding, the web page that would result into a form. And now for the JavaScript functions, let's see the top part of this code. HTML tag, then the head tag, then the script tag, language, JavaScript, and then function add it. Within the curly brackets, you can see now there are 4 statements. First, var num1 equal document dot call form dot one dot value. You should immediately understand now that means that the value typed in the text box named 1 by the user, that value should be assigned to variable num1. Similarly, value typed in the text box 2, that value should become the value of variable num2. And then document dot call form dot result dot value equal parse float num1 plus parse float num2. Now this is the key information. That means that the value of the text box named result should be the addition of num1 and num2. So using this formula here, I am in fact saying that the information typed in the first text box and the information, the number typed in the second text box, all this text-based information should be converted into decimal numbers because of the parse float functions, and then these two numbers, they should be added up, and their result, their addition should be assigned as a value to the text box named result. This is in fact the meaning of this statement, document dot call form dot result dot value equal parse float num1 plus parse float num2. You can see that I have subsequently commented out the previous statement pertaining to the alert function. So alert parse float num1 plus parse float num2, the formula, the statement which I had used in the previous example, I have now commented it out with the help of double slash, which is the syntax for commenting out information in JavaScript. So therefore, this alert statement, this would not be executed. This would be commented out because of the double slash. Similarly, the minus function, you can see within the curly brackets, where num1 equal document dot colform dot 1 dot value, then where num2 equals document dot colform dot 2 dot value, then document dot colform dot result dot value should be equal to parse float num1 minus parse float num2. The only change is that I have changed the mathematical operator and I have replaced the plus sign with the minus sign here. So parse float num1 minus parse float num2 would mean that the value of the num2, number 2 variable should be subtracted from the value of the variable num1, and the result, the subtraction, should be allocated as value of the text box called result. That result of subtraction should be shown, should be displayed in the text box result. And then again I have commented the alert function used in the previous example in the same fashion. So double slash alert parse float num1 minus parse float num2. The information used in the previous example is therefore commented out, and then I close the curly bracket for this minus function and I close the script tag. So my dear students, you have just seen that with the help of JavaScript functions, we can create a calculator and we can do the addition, subtraction, multiplication, division using the JavaScript functions. And you just saw that in the previous example, we got our result displayed in the pop-up boxes, in the alert boxes. In the example subsequent to that, we saw that we displayed these results in the text boxes themselves. So we'll continue with that, inshallah, and we'll see some more useful practical examples of JavaScripting. Till then, I say goodbye to you. Khuda Hafiz.